Intruders fans, this is Chris Bolts, and I'm coming in with an episode recap and review of this week's episode 1164, Saul's Resolve, the Inherited Will of Ohara. Now, before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. Now, this is another, I would say in this episode was probably more lore and setup than anything else. Continuation of last week's episode where it ended, where Saul had finally met up with Nico Robin. Luffy, being the captain that he is, he introduces himself to Saul, and he thanks Saul, says that he's in his debt for taking care of Nico Robin. It's a really cool thing that the captain is reading that he's doing right here. I think he learned that from when he was in Wano, because the meaning behind it kind of indicated that it was more associated with Wano than any other location. Then again, Luffy could have just made the entire thing up as well, saying that this is what he wants to do and show gratitude to Saul rather for taking care of Nico Robin all those years ago. In fact, it was Saul who was wanting to thank Luffy, who he knows about because Saul used to be a Navy soldier, and he knows about the Yonko, he knows about the Orosei, he knows about the Shichibukai, which are the warlords. So he knows all that stuff. So he already has a familiarity with Luffy. Nico Robin is actually happy. Saul is actually happy as well because she finally found friends, and this is a very touching scene right here when she tells him that these are my true friends, and you just see these arrows just shooting out everywhere and piercing the hearts of the Straw Hats, and they all say that they'll protect her for life. Of course, we have the stoic Jinbei, Zoro, and Luffy, who do not show that emotion or anything. Of course, if they did show that kind of emotion, it'd be really out of their character. And I don't think anybody really wants to see Zoro crying. They don't want to see Jinbei crying. They don't want to see Luffy crying. But these guys down here will tolerate it because that's their nature. Very cool scene right here. And then right after this, Lilith introduces herself to Saul, tries to tell him that, hey, I am Vega Punk, but you know how in the real world we sit here and we see these men who think they're women and they try to turn themselves into women. They try to convince us that they are women when in fact they're not women. That's the exact same thing that goes on right here with Saul. Saul is looking at Lilith. Lilith is saying that she's a Vega Punk, and Saul is like, I don't know who you are. So this is kind of interesting in that regard. Of course, it's not political or anything. It's just Saul is just looking at this Lilith who says that she's Vega Punk, and he's like, I don't recall Vega Punk ever being a woman. Later on, Lilith says, I will get more into detail about that. We all know why Vega Punk is a female. He put himself into 6 different bodies to create different types of versions of himself, to be able to hold all that knowledge, and also to be able to carry on certain functions that he has to do. If you guys want to know more about that, just go back and revisit the early beginnings of the Egghead Island arc, and it'll clarify all that for you. This box that Gerd is holding actually happens to be a clone of Vega Punk, but they can't open it out in the open air like that. So Lilith says she's going to create a new lab and stay here, so that's the way that they can open up this box to bring out the actual Vega Punk clone. I never liked the fact that there's so many different versions of Vega Punk. It kind of cheapens the death that he had in the Egghead Island arc when Borsalino or Kizaru killed him. He killed his friend, and I think having this clone running around is kind of like cheapening the death of Vega Punk, his sacrifice. I never really liked that thing. I think death should have a permanence in fiction, just like it has a permanence in reality. Death should be permanent, and Lilith should be her own individual. I can buy the fact that there are 6 different versions of Vega Punk that carries on his own functions, but they all have their own autonomy that was established in the Egghead Island arc. But here we have a clone that's going to be coming back. Now Vega Punk is basically alive still. I wonder if he's going to transfer his consciousness from Lilith to this clone, or how's that going to work. Obviously, that'll be explained later on. I just don't like it. You guys may or may not agree. That's fine. Jump down in the comments and let me know what you guys think about that overall. Just going back to the cartoon right here. This person that was peeking out herself. This is Angie. She's the assistant to Saul at the Owl Library. There's giant children that's running around, and the reason why that's the case is because there's a big giant school that is behind them. That school is called Walrus School. This school was established 22 years ago by Saul at the behest of the late King Harald, where children go there to be educated. The group is going to be splitting up here now. Zoro, Brook, Luffy, and Usopp are all going to go to the school. It's kind of interesting. Brook is going to go to the school, but for whatever reason, they don't show him at the school, which I don't know why they don't show him in any of the animations as well. Chopper and Nico Robin are going to go to the Owl Library. Sanji here and Nami, they're going to be, I thought they were going to be going to the school, but I think they're doing something else. And because in the animations for when everyone goes to school, Sanji and Nami are not present, so I wonder where they're going off to. Frankie and Jinbei have taken an interest in Yggdrasil, this big giant tree that is basically the entire island of Elbath. They are taking an interest in investigating this tree to find out exactly what it's all about. As they're at the school, Usopp and Luffy, they have their biases challenged. They were under the impression that everybody on Elbath, including the children, want to become warriors, but these kids come out immediately and says, no, we don't want to be warriors. That's not cool or anything. This teacher right here, this new character, Ripley, kind of interesting, showing Luffy ending up in her breast. I tell you, Eiichiro Oda really knows his fan service, and we appreciate him for his fan service. I know there's a lot of people that get kind of upset about Eiichiro Oda and the type of fan service he provides. I have no problem with it. I only had a problem with Jewelry Bonnie because, again, Jewelry Bonnie is 12 years old. That was kind of weird, but all this other stuff, I'm fine with it. Anyway, Ripley had explained to both Usopp, Luffy, Zoro, all the others there, that the days of anyone on Elbath, the giants wanted to become warriors, going out, wanted to pillage, wanted to go and curse people out and invade other lands. That stopped over a century ago. And that was because the late King Harald wanted to choose trade over war. So he started going to other lands and trading with them as opposed to going to war with them. That was obviously clashing with the traditions of the village elders. Once again, we have a leader that wanted to take the country in a different direction. We've seen this before. We've seen it in Wano. We've seen it with Alabasta, where the leadership wanted to change the way the country was away from their warring past. They wanted to go to a more peaceful future. The same thing is happening here on Elbath. King Harald wanted to change that, got into it with the village elders. And we know that Loki is down in the underworld because he had murdered his own father, King Harald. The people of Elbath did not forgive him for doing such a thing. That was pretty interesting history that was given there by Ripley and Angie as well. Going up to the library now, Saul has brought Chopper, Nico Robin, Jewelry Bonnie, and Lilith Vega Punk to the Owl Library. He was able to preserve all the books from Ohara from 22 years ago, and they stored them in this Owl Library. And when any book comes into Owl Library, it immediately becomes a giant book. We see that transformation happening here in Nico Robin's hands. The book just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it's just about giant size. I think this is kind of like a defensive measure that is done to protect these books from the likes of the world government. Obviously, if there are bigger books, it's going to take a lot more to destroy these books. And now they are available to Nico Robin for her to use. And this is a really good touching scene that shows right here where Cloudy Clover, his spirit, pats her on the head and asks her if she likes books. Nico Robin tears up and says, yes, I do love books. We have Loki talking to a person named Shaggy over the snail spawner. Shaggy makes the mistake of saying that Loki is actually a kind person, and I was thinking about that because I was watching Wisteria, Wand and Sword, which, if by the way, if you guys are not watching Wisteria, Wand and Sword, you are highly missing out. If you are a Harry Potter fan, if you are a fan of high fantasy, you should be watching Wisteria, Wand and Sword. There's a character off in there that is named Julius. He's a noble. He's helping Will Surford master his Whis, which the series hasn't explained exactly what Whis is, but he's helping Will master that. And Will makes the mistake of saying that Julius is kind, and just like a tsundere character, Julius gets upset in much the same way that Loki also here gets upset when he is called kind by Shaggy. It pisses him off, and Loki says, when I get free from these chains, I am going to punish you. So I like that little touch right there about these types of characters, these tsundere type characters who are always angry, and it's pretty much just a shield to hide their actual kindness and their actual nature of being kind, gentle people. And the episode ends off, there's this mysterious black lightning that shoots out in the distance. It's kind of interesting that these giants did not notice this lightning that just shot up and just teleported some individuals in. This is a big giant summoning circle that is similar to the summoning circle that summoned the Gorosei to Egghead Island arc, or I said Egghead Island arc, to Egghead Island, and two mysterious characters are going to appear right here. Now, I don't think this is much of a spoiler or anything because there was already a video that was released, and the two characters that are summoned right here, this one right here is Saint Shamrock. If you guys don't know who Shamrock is the brother of Shanks, and this person right here is Gunko. Who knows what they're going to be getting into? We'll have to wait and see in next week's episode. Speaking of which, next week's episode, let's go ahead and jump over there, get the preview going right here. Luffy and everyone's having fun with the kids. The banquet is finally starting, but those two mysterious characters, once again, are Shamrock and Gunko. They're going to be moving behind the scenes and doing their own thing, and who knows what's going to be going on. So the next episode of One Piece, A Welcome with Friends, Cups, and Intruders Seeking Loki. This was a big, giant, again, lore and setup episode. We got some new information about Owl Library, about Warrior School, about why Elbath and the children of Elbath no longer want to become warriors. And we got the introduction of some new characters, Ripley, Angie, and those two mysterious figures that's going to be appearing once again. They're Shamrock and Gunko. That information is already out there, so I don't think that's kind of a spoiler or anything. So overall, I thought it was a fine episode. I'm going to go ahead and give this episode an 8 out of 10. What did you guys think of this episode? Jump down in the comments and let me know what you guys think, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. And remember, this is Chris Bolt signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.